The man suddenly discovered that as long as he threw the banknote into a teacup and then pressed it down hard until it was completely soaked. After waiting 1 minute, he took the banknote out. In this way, a brand new banknote would turn into an old one. Then, he processed all the banknotes this way and then hung them on a string to blow, dry them with a hairdryer. So they ended up with a thick stack of old bills. These banknotes were actually newly made counterfeit money, compared with new bills. Old bills were less likely to draw attention, and now comes the moment to witness the miracle. An accomplice handed over the fake bill, saying he wanted to buy a bottle of soda. But the moment the Laoban took the bill, he immediately sensed something was wrong.
You're giving me fake note.
Laoban reached out to grab them. The man rushed forward and forcefully pulled his companion away. The customers in the shop had no idea what was happening. All they saw was the owner loudly shouting for them to be caught. The crowd of onlookers also chased after them. If they fell into their hands, they would likely be beaten to death. Luckily, they had planned an escape route in advance. That was how they managed to shake off the crowd.
So much fucking unemployment in our country. Mother chod, they don't even know why they're chasing us.
After returning to their residence, the two of them wasted no time and burned all the counterfeit money. Sonny could not figure it out no matter how hard he tried. He could even imitate the anti-counterfeit coating, so why was he still spotted at a glance by the boss? After holding the only fake bill he had left and pondering for a long time, he finally found the root of the problem. He told his companion to close his eyes. Then he handed him 3 bills and asked him to identify which one was fake. The other person just casually felt them and immediately picked out the fake bill. This is exactly the fundamental reason for their failure. They chose the wrong paper. Genuine banknotes use specially made cotton pulp paper. Its texture is vastly different from the counterfeit notes they made. Anyone who handles banknotes regularly can tell at a glance. And this paper also gives off a unique, crisp sound. There is also the color-shifting ink on banknotes. This ink shows different colors from different angles. The hardest to counterfeit is the security thread built into the banknote. After 2016, India's 500 and 1,000 rupee banknotes ceased to circulate. The government issued new banknotes featuring Mahatma Gandhi's portrait and added 3 anti-counterfeiting technologies. If one wants to produce counterfeit notes that can pass for the real thing, these challenges must first be overcome. The most critical among them is tiny letters are printed at the collar of the new portrait. Even with high-resolution scanning equipment, it is still difficult to reproduce it exactly. The counterfeiting difficulty is extremely high, so they could only first hand-draw the banknote's initial sketch, then shrink it proportionally to make the engraved plate. But that happened to be Sonny's specialty. He fully recreated all the details of the new banknote at a 1-to-1 scale. After polishing and chemical treatment, a template for printing banknotes was completed. Cotton pulp paper that can be used to make real banknotes is strictly regulated by the government. Ordinary people can hardly buy it, so they had no choice but to look for substitute paper with a similar feel. The two of them searched through bookstores and scrap buying stations, buying up all the papers on the market that seemed similar, but they still could not find a suitable material. Until one day, Sonny saw hope in an advertising brochure. He tossed the brochure to his partner. His partner reached out and felt it. The texture was found to be almost indistinguishable from real banknotes. It was just a pity that the paper was too thin.
Touch it now.
As long as 2 sheets of paper were layered together. Not only would the feel be extremely similar, but even the thickness would be fully acceptable. This gave Sonny an instant flash of inspiration. First, the paper just needed to be bleached and split apart, then printed on both sides separately, followed by punching holes in the front and threading in the security strip, and finally gluing the 2 layers of paper together. This makes it possible to produce a perfect layered structure, but there is still a tricky problem to solve. That is the color-shifting ink on the banknote. His partner came up with a solution. He mixed a commonly available metallic paint with the ink. The resulting color-changing effect was convincing enough to pass for the real thing. Then on the banknote, apply a layer of varnish to the surface. The feel will be as crisp as real bills. Of course, there was still one crucial final step. That was to soak it in tea to make the banknotes look more aged, to test the quality of the improved counterfeit bills. The two returned once more to that familiar shop. The owner handles hundreds of banknotes every day. He was the ideal person to do the testing. But this time, they had become smarter to avoid getting caught again. The two held hands, always ready to lend each other a hand. When Sonny handed over the counterfeit bill, his heart leapt into his throat. His partner outside had already gotten into position to flee. But in the very next moment, he was holding a bottle of soda and the change he had been given. Looking at the soda in his hand, both of them were instantly stunned. It also showed them the possibility of getting rich overnight. But then the two of them did something no one would have expected. They tracked down a local gang and handed the counterfeit bills to the boss for inspection. After looking them over, he admitted the fakes were incredibly convincing, but he still worried there might be flaws. To convince him of his craftsmanship, Sonny asked him for 2 genuine bills, then mixed them in with his counterfeit one, and placed all 3 bills in front of him together, telling him to pick out the fake one. Pharaohs even said provocatively, if the other side can tell that this bundle of counterfeit bills with a face value of 100,000 will be given away for free.
It's truth. If I point out the fake note,
What will I do with the rest? Wipe my ass?
After a moment of thought, Sonny said, if the other side could pick out the counterfeit bills, he would give the gang boss $100,000 in real cash if they could not tell them apart. Then the other side would have to pay $100,000 in cash. In fact, neither of them could come up with that much cash. He was betting that the other side simply could not recognize the counterfeit bills. Sure enough, the crime boss was intimidated by his presence. He immediately had Sonny give the answer, but after taking a look, Sonny said that he also could not tell whether they were genuine or fake. The crime boss pinched the 3 bills in his hand and studied them over and over for a long time. Still, he could not tell which one was counterfeit. What's your offer? Sonny put forward his terms. He wanted to use 200 genuine bills to exchange for counterfeit bills with a denomination of 500. The starting bid was at least 100,000.
150.
No, bhai. No 150.
I want 2 crores.
He never expected the other side to open with 20 million. The goods had to be delivered within 2 weeks. They were both stunned on the spot. He hadn't expected their first collaboration to land such a huge order. Sonny agreed without a second thought. Before they parted ways, the gangster boss told them to leave behind that bag of 100,000 in counterfeit bills. On the way back, Feroz blamed Sonny for agreeing so easily. Printing just these 100,000 counterfeit bills has already left the two of them nearly exhausted. Making 20 million within 2 weeks is simply impossible. They do not have enough raw materials or printing equipment. Worse still, the remaining 100,000 samples are still in the gang's hands. Right now, the two of them do not have a single cent. But Sonny had already come up with a plan. He went to see his uncle and confessed that he had been making counterfeit money. After hearing this, his uncle broke out in a cold sweat. This already constitutes a serious illegal act. Grandpa, who has passed away, would never allow them to do this. But the newspaper office passed down by Grandpa through the generations is about to go bankrupt. In order not to let the family business built by their ancestors over many years be ruined by his own hands, the uncle ultimately decided to agree. However, he wanted to personally verify Sonny's counterfeit bills. Sonny took him to a nearby upscale restaurant. When it came time to pay, he handed over a counterfeit bill without hesitation. The uncle beside him was extremely nervous. The hand holding the coffee kept trembling. Once exposed, the two of them would likely only end up in prison. Then Sonny motioned for him to look toward the counter. At that moment, the clerk was checking the bill to see if it was genuine. Only when the server handed over the change. Sonny even said to keep the change as a tip. But if they wanted to print large quantities in bulk, they would need a high-speed printing press and a larger plate. But to print 6 bills at once, it would also need to weigh at least 50 kilograms. The paper cutter at the printing press also needs to be replaced with a new motor, and several banknote drying machines need to be purchased. All of this requires a sum of money, but there was no sign of anxiety on Sonny's face. That same day, he went with Feroz to the bank. Previously, his grandfather had taken out a sizable loan here. The loan still hasn't been paid off. Now the two of them had come again to apply for a loan. The staff almost lost their temper on the spot. Sonny, however, agreed to repay it in a single lump sum within 1 month, and additionally pay 10% interest. After obtaining this funding, they quickly acquired all the equipment. But where could they get the cotton-based paper used specifically for printing banknotes? When printing a small amount of counterfeit money, they could still use advertising paper instead. But an order for 20 million could only use professional paper. Feroz tried to contact the raw material supplier, but the government had already tightened its controls and could only handle it through strict approval procedures. Procurement must have a complete set of qualification documents.
Name, address, Aadhaar card, PAN card.
with GST certificate and send it to me.
What, sir? I'm buying paper, not property.
What's your name again?
Why you want that paper? Who's speaking?
He was so frightened that he hurriedly hung up the phone. It seems that buying through proper channels is not going to work. They had no choice but to try the gray market route. The two of them gathered a group of thug friends and broke into the paper mill in the middle of the night. At the time, the staff were watching the Cape Verde versus Argentina match, and before they could react, they were subdued by several people. They stole all the 45G per square meter paper. Once everything was ready, they began printing the counterfeit money in earnest. Sheets of green fake bills were slowly fed out of the printing press, then sent into drying equipment to be baked. Finally, they wrapped them in newspaper and put them away. When they saw the finished product, the mob boss was once again shocked beyond belief. He then signaled his men to settle the payment, looking at the sack full of real bills. Both of them grinned from ear to ear, just as they were about to leave.
1 second.
Artist,
We need more fakes.
anytime.
Because of the previous experience, the counterfeiting speed later became even faster. Boxes filled with counterfeit bills were already piled up in the corner. Then they took them to be tested with a bill counter. Unexpectedly, they all passed the bill counter's inspection without a hitch. But while his career was going smoothly, he hit a wall in his love life. Sonny's girlfriend of 5 years was about to get married. He had originally wanted to tell his girlfriend that he was rich now, be able to accompany her to upscale restaurants. But by now, there was no need to bring it up anymore. He walked to the restaurant front desk to retrieve his ex-girlfriend's credit card and the bill. Just as he took out his wallet and was about to pay the bill, he suddenly thought of a way. So he sent the waiter away, then took out a bundle of fake bills from his bag and stuffed them into the bill holder, unaware that this move would spell disaster for him. After the two of them left, an employee of the Reserve Bank of India came into the shop to eat. His name was Meja. He had an exceptionally strong ability to detect counterfeit money. He was there on a blind date arranged by his parents. But he did not like this blind date candidate who was full of nonsense. After eating a few bites, he called the waiter over to settle the bill. Then the waiter gave both of them their change. He happened to receive the counterfeit note Sunny had left behind. The moment it touched the paper, he immediately noticed something was wrong. Although this bill looked exactly like a genuine one, there was still an essential difference between the two. He then showed his work ID and took away all the counterfeit bills. That evening, he and his colleague began testing them. The results showed that the person who made this batch of bills was highly talented. The anti-counterfeit code and anti-counterfeit coding were almost exactly the same as those on genuine bills. Ordinary people simply could not tell the difference. And the reason Meja could see through it at a glance was that there was something wrong with the paper's texture. After all, he dealt with money every day. Just as expected. After soaking it and pulling it apart, the counterfeit bill split into 2 layers on the spot.
I suspected it to be a sandwich note. You know what it means? They're not an organization. They don't have any resources or infrastructure. They just have an offset printer and lots of bloody talent.
He even used the clues he already had to infer Sunny's production conditions. Meanwhile, Sunny on the other side was still completely unaware that the counterfeit money had already been exposed. Faced with such a highly intelligent Meja, what ending will Sunny ultimately meet? That's all for today's video. See you in the next video.